Welcome to the Miracle You, guiding you on the journey towards finding passion and purpose, and how to discover, create, and live a life by your design. Whether your success has been plentiful or your missed opportunities have been overwhelming, we can help you become a more empowered, masterful person and show you how to share your gift with the world. It's time to inspire change from within with the host of the Miracle You, Vince Kramer.
Hello, imagination. I'm Vince Kramer, your host, and welcome to the Miracle You, where you learn about the magic of living your life by finding the example in real life. Things are going to happen in our lives. We're going to have circumstances show up that sometimes don't feel like they're fair. They don't feel like it should be happening to me. But these circumstances, just like the ones that are happier, the ones that are more joyful, these circumstances are very powerful, and there's a reason for them happening in our lives. As a matter of fact, some of these circumstances that we can't understand why they would happen to us or what's the reason for them are usually the ones that are the most powerful. They're the ones that push us in a different direction, help us open our eyes, our minds, our hearts to different possibilities. They help us develop some of our biggest gifts. They push us to go beyond where we ever thought we could be. I want you to know that these circumstances are extremely important for us, and they're created for us by that higher, more knowing energy of who we are to help us live our divine intent, to help us live our mission. And we're all here to live that mission. We're all here to make a difference. So I want you to understand that as these circumstances happen, find hope, learn to trust that they're taking you in the direction that you're meant to go. They're taking you to the place that will open the door for who you are and how you're meant to make a difference in this world. I'm with Caroline Rose today. Caroline's a mom, wife, and dog lover, as well as a wine-loving, hope-holding, 3-time stage 4 cancer thriver. Today, Caroline is enjoying her 10th year of living cancer-free. She travels the country speaking to approximately 10,000 to 15,000 people each year. Her message of hope resonates universally, especially today. The world is craving hope, and Caroline is happy to be the one to provide it. She remains passionate about spreading hope and giving back to those who are still searching for their hopeful ever after. Caroline Rose, are you ready to share the miracle of you with the imagination?
Guidance, I am.
I was doing some research before our episode, and I'm really impressed and admire you for making the things in your life, let's say the more negative things that have happened in your life, be so positive, not just for you and your family, but for everyone. Could you share a little bit more about what you're doing through spreading this word of hope?
Absolutely. I think it sort of surprised me, to be honest. I think that, in retrospect, after you go through a diagnosis or really any big, huge life-changing event, it took me years to really process what that was. And sort of I had to distance myself a little bit in terms of time, probably 4 or 5 years until I really could look back on this and think, okay, what just happened? Why did this just happen? And what happens now? What do I do with this? Because life looked so different than I ever thought it would look. And that is a beautiful thing. And once I sort of started to process this and realize this, it coincided perfectly with the speaking opportunities that started to come my way. And my favorite part of doing that was afterwards, seeing the audience members and having them come up and just talk to me and me being able to ask them questions. And really the constant message that kept coming back was, you gave us hope. And their life circumstances were so different. Of course, we had audience members that were dealing with cancer, or a loved one was dealing with cancer. Some were going through divorces, some had financial issues, depression, anxiety, you name it, and that's, for me, the reason I still do this is that having the realization that life is struggle. We're all in some sort of struggle, but it's when we're able to really talk about that and be honest about that. That's when we really understand and recognize this shared humanity that we all have. And that's where the really beautiful stuff happens.
One of the things that we share at Imagine Miracles is that we aren't alone. Everybody's experiencing these things in their lives to help them develop gifts, to open them up to bringing what they're meant to bring to this world. And obviously, hope is what you're meant to bring. It's truly your divine intent, your mission on this earth. But at 27 years old, we're invincible. Nothing's ever going to happen to us. We're going to be healthy until we're in our 70s or 80s, and then we might have to worry about something physical or mental. Tell the audience what you experienced over those 4 years where you learned to accept. You probably went through the stages of grief and the anger that comes with that. Could you share with the audience?
Absolutely. It's a great question. I love the way you asked that. I think when I was first diagnosed, like you said, I was 27. And I think a diagnosis is shocking, but you add on, being young, being in that invincible mindset. I was in medical school. I was a huge marathon runner. I started doing triathlons, and I was actually training to climb Mount Kilimanjaro in Africa, which is sort of through the blood work and everything required before Africa is how they found this in the first place. And so going from being in the best shape of your life, having, just incredible finishing times and goals that keep being pushed and up to the game, and to then literally overnight finding out that you have this stage 4 cancer kind of ravaging through your body, it is almost impossible to process all of that. And I think that for a long time, it was sort of this mentality of numb out, do what I have to do to keep going, kind of just survive. We called it survival mode. And once I sort of got through all the years with the cancer and started coming out on the other side in that processing phase, it was really learning how to trust again. Because for me, I'd lost so much trust in life. I'd lost trust in my body. I'd lost trust in myself. In my mind, everything had let me down. I'd let myself down. My body had let me down. Life had let me down. I was supposed to be a surgeon, and here I was, in the bed, not the doctor, coming over the bed. And so it really was sort of this process of learning that it's going to be okay. And what I mean by that is, it doesn't literally mean everything is going to be okay, but whatever happens will be okay. And that may not be what I wanted to have happen or what I thought was going to have happen, but it will happen, and we will move on in one way or another. And I think that what I've learned is hope and trust are so intertwined, because you can't hope without trust, and you can't trust without hope. And if you only have one piece, you don't have the full picture, because hope doesn't mean you're going to have that magic fairy tale happily ever after ending that you're hoping for. It's not always going to be that way. There are going to be a lot of unanswered prayers, and there are going to be a lot of things that are heartbreaking, really. But that hope doesn't fade. That hope just shifts and changes, and that hope just begins to look different.
How long after your first diagnosis was the second?
It was 8 months. I had my first remission was 8 months, and then I had 3.5 years between my second and my third.
So after your second, and you went through the stages that you went through, and you're coming up on that fourth year, where were you mentally in that? And where were you in understanding what you're meant to bring to the world?
Mhm. Are you saying, sorry, after my third diagnosis or just before my third diagnosis?
Just before your third.
You know, it's funny when I look back on that time, my second diagnosis, we did a bone marrow transplant because that was really the only potential curative option that we had because this cancer didn't have a cure and it was so aggressive and it was nasty. This was a hard cancer to treat. So we did this treatment that was risky, but at the end of the day, it worked. And so after that second diagnosis, in my mind, I really believe I had processed it well and had kind of mentally, emotionally, and physically started to move on. And that's when my husband and I, we had our daughter and then we had our son. And my mind was just so preoccupied with being a mom and babies and bottles and all of the stuff that comes with it that when that third diagnosis came, my daughter was 2 and my son was 5 weeks old. And it surprised me almost more than the first diagnosis because that third time being a mom and, really feeling like I had kicked this thing, I had beaten it, I had won, that there was that time in my life and I dug in, I fought, I won. And now this is my time to be a mom and have our family. And to have it come back at that point where I have these babies at home, I felt betrayed in a weird way. I was angry, I was devastated, and it was like every piece of armor and that I didn't even know I'd ever had. This wall, this brick wall just came up around me that took years to tear down because it was the only way I could survive was to have that around me.
Talk to us a little bit about bringing that wall down, taking the blocks out block by block. What was that process for you?
Possibly harder than any of the treatments, I will tell you. I think, you know, to go a little bigger picture and then I'll kind of zoom back in. I think it has been the most incredible process for me because the big question is why? Why did you have this disease? Why did you get the cancer? And no one really knows, right? But there's no doubt in my mind that there's a huge emotional component to this. Something in my past, something in life, something was happening that this was my body's way of telling me, Caroline, something has to change. You have to look up, let's deal with this. And I never did. So I think that after that third diagnosis, I knew that I had to really start the process of healing. And I wasn't ready to process what I'd been through with the cancer, but I was at least willing to at least start with therapy. So I found a therapist and we started there. And then, we lived in Los Angeles at the time, which was a blessing because there were a lot of really fun, different ways of healing that, really was everywhere you looked. And a lot of friends had fun, funky, crazy suggestions. I took every one of them. I've seen every type of person. And it was some were super helpful, some not as much, but it was this incredibly long journey for me to let go of what I knew and start to see life and healing in a different way. And really, a huge component of that was forgiveness to myself, to not be angry at my body, to love my body, appreciate what it did for me, and forgive myself for feeling like I wasn't enough or hadn't done it the right way or letting go of any of those like perfectionist tendencies that I can hold on to. And I think that is definitely the center stone of my life that I have to prioritize every day, every hour of every day. And it's a lot of saying, it's going to be okay. It's all right. You're safe. You're good. I trust. I hope. And I just am. And it's just really being in the moment, being in this one moment. Because what I also learned was the fear that was consuming me of, is this going to come back? Is something going to happen to my kids? Is what, we can all go down that rabbit hole a million different ways. And in order for that fear not to cripple me, I have to acknowledge it, number one, And again, just almost dance with it, like you're here, I'm here, we're both here, and that's okay. And we're okay. And maybe a little fear is a good thing. It really drives me back into this moment to remind myself that this is all we have and this is what we're going to make of it.
How hard was it for you to trust, and especially trust your body and trust yourself? And what process did you go through to get yourself to be able to trust?
It was incredibly hard. It was incredibly hard. And I think that there's probably a part of me that still struggles with that. It struggles with trusting that my body really can handle it, can do it, and also that my body kind of knows what it's talking about, because I've definitely connected my mind and body, which is something pre-cancer I had not done before. It was sort of two different people, there was my mind and there was my body, and my mind told my body what to do at all times. And so now I'm much more body driven. It's more, I'm tired today. I'm not going to go do that jog, or I need to rest for 2 hours, not one. And that's okay. Listening to that. But then there are definitely times where I think, but do I really, or should I? There is sort of this delicate balance that I still try to find. And I think that is just a lot of going back to forgiving, accepting, and trusting, even when you aren't totally sure it's the right thing to be trusting. You just have to fall back on that at the end of the day.
So through the trust, when you hear trust, many times you hear surrender very close to it. So was there a surrender in there for you?
I think yes and no. I think that there is always going to be a part of me that has to stay a little bit like fists up, like get ready for the next punch. And that has softened a lot. But I think the surrender is more of just being in the moment and just being okay with not knowing what's to come. There's no way any of us would know. But I think pre cancer, that personality I had, I really was on a track in life. Like I said, I was in med school, marathon running, type A, goal setting. I was just going to make it happen. And this life, this was my biggest lesson was I'm not going to make anything happen. I can have my sight set on a certain path. I can want something. I can work towards something, but it's probably going to end up different, looking very different from what I think the way it's going to look. And it'll probably be more beautiful because of that. And I will lose some things along the way. I'll gain some things along the way. And I can't attach myself so tightly to those things. And that's just where it always goes back to. I have to trust that is what's supposed to happen. That is what's meant to be. And I'm just going to let it happen so that I can enjoy the beauty of it.
You just shared that's what was meant to be. Let me ask you this, because at Imagine Miracles, we share with people and we take them through the circumstances that they've had in their lives and help them see what gift was there for them in those circumstances, and how they can take that gift then to develop who they are and what they're to bring to the world. Talk to us about finding a gift in 3 diagnoses of stage 4 cancer.
Well, I have a gift that is maybe a little unconventional. A gift that came to me that, I can only look back now and just it was such a God thing. I was in the transition of realizing I was not going to force this diagnosis away. I couldn't run it away. I couldn't study it away. There was nothing I could do except show up, do the treatments, and just keep putting one foot in front of the other. And when I was first diagnosed, I was told that there was no cure for this cancer, which in my mind was devastating. But on another level, it was, but I don't understand. I need a goal. I achieve goals. If I don't have a cure, what's my goal? What do I do? And it was kind of explained to me that there were so many things in development, in research for so many different diseases. Buy time. Because if I can get into remission, and if I do then need treatment again in the future, which probably would happen, there could be a new treatment option. You just never really know. And that made sense to me. So I thought, okay, I can buy time. That I will start to do. And in the middle of this buying time, and really in between my first and second diagnosis, when I was in this living in wait, I call it, because I knew the cancer was coming back. I didn't know when, but I couldn't really go back to school, couldn't get the job. There wasn't a lot for me to do. It was a very, very interesting time. I found this rescue dog, and this dog had been horrifically abused. This dog had been treated more horrifically than anyone of us could ever imagine. He had burn marks. He couldn't walk. He was deformed. And he was this big Great Dane Lab mix. And he was being put down. And I saw his picture on the internet, and I saw his eyes. And I will forever remember that picture, because I remember those eyes. I think I saw myself. And it was almost this soul that had been beaten in a way, not mine physically, but just beaten down, and almost so close to just wanting to throw in the towel. But there was this hope in those eyes. And I called my husband and I said, I'm going to get a dog. And he thought, what are you doing? And I brought this dog home, and it took a while for us to establish this rapport, this trust. But once we did, he became my project. He became my life. He became my focus. And it was rebuilding him physically, emotionally, all of it. And this journey that we began together, and this bond that we formed, I wasn't aware of it at the time, but he taught me how to trust. I saw this dog come, who had been so horrifically mistreated by humans. And here we are, strange humans. He was never aggressive. He was terrified, but he eventually opened his heart again to us. He got back in the race, the game. He got back in life, and the physical came over time. And this dog, all he was capable of was living in the moment. It was just that moment. That's what it was. And the peace that he found, and I don't say I gave it to him. I mean, he gave it all to me. He was the one that healed me. I'm very clear on that, and I'm forever grateful. He was my example. He was my master teacher. He was my inspiration. And really, everyone that met him and came in contact with him, everyone had a story. This dog was bigger than us, bigger than life, and what he did for all of us. And after he passed, the letters we received from people that we'd never even met, just this dog meant so much, and this, and this. And I just thought he was the ultimate teacher. This was it. So I go back to Riley. His name was Riley Rose. And, what he showed me and what he did for this world. And I think it is truly the perfect example of what I hope I've been able to do a little bit of, is just showing others that life is hard. It is scary. But it's not over. Wherever you are, whatever has happened, I've been there. Riley was definitely there. There is still hope on the other side. And to really deeply believe that and hold on to it, it changes everything.
When the student's ready, the teacher appears, right?
Yes. Oh man, isn't that right? Oh, he was the ultimate teacher.
Yeah, for sure. So wonderful, the story that you share. There is no doubt in my mind, Caroline, the energy that you put out, who you are as a person. It's very obvious that you would have been a great surgeon and made a difference in a lot of people's lives and probably saved a lot of lives. But I'm venturing to guess that you've already saved countless more lives in what you're doing now than you ever would have as a surgeon. How does it feel to be led to this purpose, to be put in the situation where you're truly affecting not just people physically, but emotionally, mentally? How does I know it has to be humbling, but it's obvious that this is your purpose. How does that feel to you, and how do you let yourself accept it?
It feels to me as I would say writing or speaking feels to me. It comes from a place that I am so much bigger than me. The words that are channeled, and I know that sounds crazy, but this was never a life or a path I could have ever in a million years foreseen. So I know it's the right path because if I just keep trusting every next step, it has led me into this incredible place. And when I hear the feedback or when I'm able to talk to people or when I agree with you that I hopefully am touching lives in a much more meaningful way than a one time surgery, it feels right in that there's no other explanation for being over on this side of it all, and it gives meaning and purpose to the hard stuff that has happened. And it almost is not even about me. I don't know if this makes sense, if I'm going to explain this the right way, but any kind word or any, hug or tear or anything that comes my way from somebody else that is almost not even directed, I don't take it towards me. I take it towards Riley or towards God or towards the universe that led me to this. It's almost going up where, you want to break off a piece of the trophy for everybody and throw it out into the crowd because it's like this goes to you and you and you and you because we're all here, we're all doing it and we're all doing our best. And so I just feel lucky to be one of the many that is, in the position to be able to talk into a microphone or, write pages or words that are read by others. But it just feels like I'm hopefully representing all of us to the best that I can possibly do it.
What you just shared with us there is a true example of what we believe at Imagine Miracles a Miracle is, through an act of love, sharing your gifts and talents in a way that others can share theirs. And I appreciate you sharing that way because it's so obvious that you have moved from the I and me world into the us and we world. And that's as you said so well in the bio that you shared. Yeah, this is the world's craving hope right now. The world's craving peace and love and oneness. So you're such a great example of that. What would you say your divine intent is, your mission in this world is?
To be the best mom I can be, to be a person that is an example of failure, imperfections, resilient, and love. I think that is exactly, and I would say hope as well. But I think my purpose is sort of just being the person I would hope my children would become, or, the type of person that's going to kind of save this world, that I feel that we're all craving hope, but we're all craving acceptance and forgiveness and tolerance and, a world without judgment. Instead of judging other people, let's love them and try to understand them and realize that there's so much beneath the surface. And maybe it's because I have teenagers right now, but it's so on my mind, the judgment that we place on others. And I think if I can help, just elevate that message of just acceptance and love, and as opposed to judgment and criticism, and I think that will save us and propel us and keep us going so that we can do the deeper work that we're all really ready to do.
You shared that so well. Thank you very much. Could you talk a little bit about this deeper work that we're here to do?
We're here for such a short time, right? This life that we're living right now is so short. So the question is why? Why are we here? What are we doing? And what are we going to do with this? And I don't want to get to the end and think, oh man, I wish I should have, and not talking as much about, a trip or something like that, even though that is wonderful to do. I'm talking more about the impact that we make and the beliefs that we hold and the actions that we have, because I believe we are here to all make a difference. And I think the misconception is that this difference has to be big, right? It doesn't have to be big. This difference could be so small. This difference could be a smile at a stranger. This difference could be sending a text to someone just to say hi. This difference can be so small, but the impact that has can be, 10 times greater than what you ever imagined. I think if we can forgive ourselves, get past any shame that we are holding, that is holding us back from really being in this world, in our joy, in our trust, in our hope, if we can get past that and remember that we're all in it together, it's all okay. We are okay. I think this world would just be an entirely different experience.
I usually ask everyone to share a parting piece of guidance, and you just did.
Well, good.
So I appreciate that so much. Could you share with the imagination how people could learn more about you, what you're doing, maybe even how to get in touch with you?
Absolutely. Yes, it's all Dear Riley Rose. It is my website, Instagram, Facebook, although I check Instagram more. And then my contact is on the website as well. And I love talking to anybody, anyone that wants to reach out. Happy to do it. Would be an honor.
I'll make all that information available on Caroline's show page. Just go to themiracleu.com and look for Caroline Rose's episode, and that information will all be available to you. Caroline, thank you so much for sharing yourself with us today. And thank you for what you're doing in the world and how you've stepped into the fullness of who you're meant to be in this world. We surely appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
It was my pleasure. On behalf of my wife and business partner, Mary, the entire team here at Imagine Miracles, we want to wish each and every one of you a miracle day.
You've completed this episode of The Miracle You, but we have plenty more to help you discover your own personal passion and purpose. Head over to themiracleu.com for free resources to assist you on your journey, as well as register for our free webinar, Discover Your Miracle Life, 3 Mind Awakening Steps Toward Your Unique Purpose, or apply for a one-on-one Your Life, Your Way breakthrough session and discover your next best step on your journey. All available exclusively on our website. That's themiracleu.com. We look forward to sharing more experiences of passion, purpose, and life by design next time, right here on The Miracle You.